Okay, in this video, what I want to show you is I want to show you the difference between an annotated bibliography and a reference page. And so the first thing that you need to understand is that we have a whole bunch of free resources that you can go to. The main one is the OWL website, it's a University of Purdue online writing lab, and they have a ton of resources that are free. If I were to have you all buy this book, this little APA book runs, I don't know, $40 to $50, and so I prefer just to have you all use these free resources that are already on the web. So I want to give you an example here. All of these right here will show you how to do in-text citations, the basics. And so if you click there, it'll give you how you actually take a quote and how you migrate that quote into the body of your paper. Now I'm going to be talking about this more next week, but for anybody who wants to get ahead, there is a lot of very detailed information here, how to paraphrase, how to do a long quotation, how to quote just by the chapter's name and a direct quote. Really useful stuff. So I encourage you to check this out, and you're going to need to know this eventually. So start floating around with it. It shows you how to do footnotes and endnotes, and then it shows you on reference lists. Now, if you see here, from here all the way down to here are all different reference list details. So if you have a book and you don't know how to cite the book, let's say you're using something that's not in the database, and so it doesn't just generate an APA citation for you automatically, well, then you're going to need to go and look. Let's say hypothetically you have a book and you need to look up a book, and you can see that the book is edited but it has no author. Well, this will show you the information that you need. A book, edited book with an author, authors, a translation, an edition other than the first edition, an article or a chapter in an edited book. And so everything that you need is right here, and frequently they'll give you the top here, they'll tell you what you need to put in there, followed by an actual real life example of it down here. So lots of resources up here. The one though that we're going to look at right now is the sample paper. If you look right here, APA sample paper. And so I've already got this open in another window. This is a PDF of that sample paper. I'm going to be posting this PDF in the course content for you guys to take a look at. And basically it walks you through in these boxes. You can see these blue boxes contain directions for writing and citing APA style. Green boxes contain explanations of APA style guidelines. And so as you scroll through this example paper, there's a lot of information as to how things should be formatted, where things should appear, how long, 150 to 250 words for the abstract, stuff that we've already been reviewing in that PowerPoint we watched a couple weeks ago, but things that you need to know in order to write a proper APA paper as far as formatting goes. So if you scroll down to the bottom of the paper, what I'm interested right now for the content of this particular video is the reference page. If you take a look here, this is an example of a reference page. As you can see, it's the last page of the paper after the text. So here's the conclusion page, and then we flow right into the reference page. Reference page is its own page. It doesn't end, you don't use the white space here, but you actually start an individual page, and then you can alphabetize by authors, the last name, the first initial, the first letter of their last name, as you can see here, so CHTU, and then all of the publishing information, it appears afterwards. Now, your assignment for this week, however, is a little bit different. Your assignment this week is an annotated bibliography. Now, a reference page is the same thing as a bibliography. And for those of you who have done works cited, it's the exact same thing. So all of these basically are different terms for the same item. It's a page at the end of the work or the end of the paper where you cite your sources. Now, annotated bibliography, as I explained earlier, annotation is a fancy word for a summary. So this is summaries with a bibliography. That's what an annotated bib is. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at some examples. So this is what you're going to have to generate for your final paper, but before you generate this, you have to generate an annotated bibliography. So as you can see here, annotated bibliographies are pretty useful. Basically, this is your citation information for each of your sources. This one continues down. And then this is your summary. And so basically, the first couple sentences, and I'll provide an outline or a very brief summary of what's in the text. And then here, down here, there's an analysis sentence or two generally. Generally, these don't need to be more than, I would say, 4 to 5 sentences. They don't need to be too long in terms of your annotations. But this talks about how this is a helpful source for getting an overview of the current ethics standards in outsourcing. So this is an analysis of how you will use your use for the article slash book slash whatever type of resource it happens to be. So that's basically roughly what an annotated bibliography. If you take a look here, an annotated bibliography, like anything else, the reference page or works cited is alphabetized by the author's last name. If there is no author present, then you'd go by the first major word of the title if there's no author present. So in here, we wouldn't go by the word the, not a major word. We'd go by AMA, even though it's an acronym, we would go by that. And so it's a little tidbit of information for you. Now, this particular document is interesting because it shows you an annotated bibliography, and then for the exact same information, it shows you what your reference page should look like. And so this can be pretty helpful. So you're going to be generating one of these for this week, but then at the end of your paper, I want to see one of these down here. And so this up here outlines kind of the basic guidelines. It's very simple explanation as to what an annotated bibliography. This will all be posted in D2L so you can access it and read through it. Now, what I want to see, I'm going to go back to this document here that we were working with. And there's something in the last video that we needed to discuss that I didn't do properly. And that is, as you can see here, we have this gray background. And this gray background, this is the APA information that I copy and pasted over. So we've got a couple things going on. One, we don't have a hanging indent. And two, we've got this gray background that was copy and pasted from SIRS when we accessed it. And so I'm going to do this, but before I actually hit this clear formatting button, I'm going to take a look here because this is a journal article or from a magazine article, and this is actually italicized, this section. And so as you'll notice, all of this information is going to disappear as far as formatting is going to disappear. So I'm going to hit that and we lose everything, and which is fine. I don't care if it's Arial, that's totally fine. But what I do need to do is I need to grab that title because that title does need to be italicized. Go up here and do that. The other thing for those of you who like keyboard shortcuts, a Control or a Command I will italicize, just like a Control B will bold and a Control W will underline. Quick little shortcut, keyboard shortcut lesson. So taking a look here, now you want to watch because sometimes these have some errors in them, these APA citations. In fact, this one, if you look back at the original, was actually a comma. That's supposed to be a period. Here you can see we have 2 commas. So just because you're getting those APA citations, it doesn't mean they're going to be perfect. Now, the next thing are the item called the hanging indent. And so I want to show you how to do a hanging indent. And so let's go take a look at a hanging indent for a second here. If we go back over to the example here and we scroll down, you can see this aspect of it right here is the hanging indent. See how that begins over and this sticks out? It sticks out so that when you get to the works cited, or the reference page, I'm sorry, it's very easy to see information based on the author's last name, so, or in this case, the article title. You see how that works? Very easy to see it, find a source, locate the source, and then get the pertinent information about it. If everything were, let's just say, let's imagine that everything here were left adjusted, this would be pretty hard to read. We'd have a hard time distinguishing between each of the different resources. So as a result, we use the hanging indents, and they're very easy to see. Okay, now going back over here, I'm going to show you actually how to conduct a hanging indent. So looking here, this is obviously not properly formatted with a hanging indent. The easiest way that I've found to do the hanging indent is you put your cursor here, you hit a return or an enter. Nothing happens. That first enter or return that you hit goes through and it separates this line right here from this line down here. And actually, in formatting, it makes a separation. So then, after you hit the return, you can bring your cursor back to right there, and you can hit a tab, and it moves it over, and you have your hanging indent. So let's review that. Pull that back. So the first thing you hit, the first item, is you would hit return. Nothing's going to happen, and then you're going to hit a tab. Now, let's pretend that we just hit the tab first, and we actually don't hit the return. As you can see here, if I hit the tab, it's going to move the top over. If I move it down and I hit the tab, it's still moving the top over. Sometimes, I'm not sure why in this case it's not, but sometimes it moves both of these lines over together, and they're both indented. And so that return is instrumental to avoiding that little occurrence. So basically, just to review again, you're going to be taking your 8 sources, and for each of your 8 sources, you're going to be going through and you're going to be creating an annotated bibliography. So you need the proper APA citation information, and then you need a 4 to 5 sentence annotation, a couple sentences as a summary, and then an analysis of how you plan to use this article or this book or this particular research source in your work. Now, a lot of these for the online databases are pretty easy to find this information, but some cases you might have an oddball source, and if that's the case, not a big deal, but you need to go to Purdue. You need to look over here in the reference list and find out, is it an electronic source, is it a print source, is it a book, is it an article in a periodical? Periodical is a fancy name for newspaper. Is it an author, and then just the basic rules. So you need to be reviewing these and generating your own citations if they don't have them. All right, let me know if you have any questions.